What is going on? And we are back for week 11 in daily fantasy on DraftKings. It is the week of the high priced running back. We're going to be trying to jam them in and make sure you listen out and see how we get to jam those guys in. There's some good value on the slate. Of course, we're going to be doing our locks of the week. We're going to be giving you Tim and Gerson sick calls because I refuse to give my sick calls anymore since I haven't hit one at all this season. But hang tight, guys. We're going to get right into the show just a second.
Going for two, kickers are extra, I give them the boot. Ooh, going for two, sit back, relax while I grab me a brew. Ooh, now I'm reclining while putting my time and I'm ready to go. My spine is aligning and much my lineups, my bank account grow. I am so rich, but knowledge is all that I'm leaving it with. Ooh, listen to this, multiple options, how far can I get? Ooh, DFS Dynasty redraft tonight, I'm not finishing last. I'm finishing past any and all, I am looking to last. What else? This spot is popping and I am so locked in and only opening the door when it is opportunity knocking. And all of these spots keep on talking and talking. So what are we talking? What kind of alignment? And running it deep, even players forgotten or came from the bottom or hitting that top end. And this spot is popping, yeah, this spot is popping. And woo! This is the armchair, yeah. Put up your arms, yeah. Sound the alarm, yeah, yeah, yeah. Ooh.
What is going on? It is episode 406 of the Armchair Fantasy Show. I am your host, of course, Jeff Lambert. Already off to a good start, as you can see. I'm here with my co-host, as always. We'll introduce Tim first, who was not on the show last week for very good reasons. He was in Hawaii getting married. What's up, Tim?
Oh man, I'm happy to be back talking football again. It's the longest I've gone without watching live sports in over a decade. So just happy to be back in the mix.
Good stuff, man. Good stuff. Gerson's here as well, man. What's up, G?
What's up? What's up? Congratulations, Tim, again. Not much. Just a very interesting slate for quarterback, and I'm just curious, like which way to. I think the ownership's going to be a little bit crazy this week. I had a really good week last week, though, so I'm pretty excited.
Good stuff. As always, guys, you can find us on Friday nights. Typically, we're on 10:30 Eastern Standard Time, but tonight, because I had to work late, we are on at 11:30. So if you're in the chat, thank you for staying up with us. You can find us on Facebook Live, Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, goingfor2.com, and, of course, all major podcast networks. Let's go ahead and just jump into the rewind.
The Weekly Rewind. Rewind.
All right, Tim, give us one good, one bad from last week. Did you even play DFS? Are you even able to play DFS in Hawaii? I don't even know.
No, Hawaii is not legal to play DFS. I played a whole $3 last week. The one good for me was actually listening to Gerson and staying off my phone, staying away from sports, just doing the honeymoon thing. But my one good last week was actually Bijan Robinson. If I would have played, I would have been really high on him. Unfortunately, I was also really high on Saquon Barkley, who waited till Thursday night to go off. So I'm glad, let's say, that I was in Hawaii last week.
Yeah, that's good. What about you, G? What's your good, one bad last week?
My one good was Bijan. This is I touted him for like 4 weeks in a row, and it's still been paying off. My one bad was unfortunately my lock of the week, Justin Jefferson. It was kind of crazy because I was in the power sweep and I was top 15 until about the last game of the day, and I had the Brock Purdy stack, and I placed like top 50, but either way, it was top 50 or like top 100. But either way, I had 3 snowflakes in that roster. So what could have been a really good day turned out to be it still was a pretty great day because I did good in other GPPs and whatnot. But Justin Jefferson really let me down. I guess he's not a dog like Jamar Chase.
My cash lineup only had 2 good players, period. It ended up cashing thanks to the defense I played. I played the Patriots defense, who outplayed the chalk defense, the Bears. And then I played Justin Herbert as my quarterback. And thankfully, he did just enough to get me to cash in both. The rest of them were all snowflakes. All the chalk busted. including my lock of the week was also chalk. Mr. Aaron Jones busted as well.
Yeah.
He had a flake next to his name, so that was my one bad for the week was Aaron Jones. And I mean, really, if you pick any of the chalk last week, you know it was tough. I mean, I think Kamara snowflaked. A bunch of guys snowflake last week, but thanks to Justin Herbert and my defense, I was able to cash still. All right, let's get to the quarterbacks.
Let's talk quarterbacks.
So, Gerson, we were talking pre-show about our sheet here, and there's some pretty big names that are missing on our sheet. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I'll name the three names: Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, and Josh Allen. Um, they're all great plays. The only thing is they're very expensive. Um, I just don't know if I'm going to go down that route. I'm probably going to have some sprinkles of that Chief and Bills game. But if you really go look at the Chief and Bills game, like I feel like they play every year, and none of their games have really like hit that 50-point amazing fantasy like outcome. Like one player will do good, and then that's it. Like it's not like a fantasy darling game. And now that I said that, it's going to go off for like 70 points, and of course.
Of course.
But
Yeah.
all those games, and then Lamar. But the thing is, with Lamar, his stack is very expensive. You run it with Dave Flower, him, and then Mark Andrews, or you can go to Bateman or Johnson. But the thing is, Bateman's not as cheap as he used to be. And what's his name, Johnson? Well, we don't know what kind of usage he's gonna get.
Yep.
So, but yeah, that's my opinion on those three. And again, like the thing is expensive, and we want to pay for running backs this week.
Yep.
Agreed. Yeah, I will say that my favorite of that group is Josh Allen, and that's mainly because we got a cheap piece of value we'll talk about later that I think makes it much easier to stack him. So
Yeah. Stuff.
that's my favorite.
What do you got for your quarterback this week, Gerson?
My number one quarterback, and he's probably gonna be my highest owned quarterback. I'm probably gonna have out of my 150 rosters, he's probably gonna be in like 40 of them. I love this game. Brock Purdy's pretty cheap too. And one of the things people don't realize, Brock Purdy is actually, I guess you can say, a Konami code quarterback. He had just as many rushing attempts as Kyler Murray.
He does.
I mean, the guy is running, so 6.6K. And I mean, I can't believe I'm saying this, but he actually looks like a legit superstar quarterback. Like, even with what he's working with, I mean, I know he has all his weapons back except for Brandon Ayuk, but Pearsall and Juwan Jennings have stepped it up. They look very good, and that offense is humming, and it's humming at the right time when they got Lamar Jackson, Christian McCaffrey back. And I think this is the game where McCaffrey finally gets the whole full workload and stuff. They just wanted to ease him in last week. But it's against Seattle. And we already seen this game once this year. And Purdy had a pretty good game. I expect him to have another pretty good game against this team. I mean, 24 DraftKings points, 255, 3 touchdowns. I don't know if you guys watched that game, but that Seattle offense didn't get going until like the third quarter.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And DK Metcalf was pissed on the sideline.
Yep.
I'm pretty sure this game is going to be fun to watch. It's one of the highest implied total games of the week, and I'm going to have a lot of exposure to both sides of the ball.
Yeah, I think the biggest issue with Purdy is who do you stack him with? Because I mean, you can go so many different directions.
Oh man,
stack.
We'll get there.
Yeah, we'll get there. Tim, what you got for your quarterback?
Real quick on Brock Purdy. I don't know if you, Gerson, but he rates out as my number one value quarterback on the week, which is kind of crazy for somebody in the 6K range, but that just shows you like they refuse to price him up. The other guy I really like, and this is a staple of this show if you watched it for a long time, is home Jared Goff. I think people will be overlooking Jared Goff this week, coming off what I think was a 5-interception game. Just a terrible, terrible game for him. But we know you don't play Jared Goff on the road, right? He averages 6 DraftKings points more at home versus on the road. Nobody's going to play him this week. He's going to be super low owned. And I think a couple of his stacking partners are going to be super low owned, which means, you can play some of these high ownership running backs and then get low owned with your stack. And so that's where I'm going to be going this week, in a lot of my lineups.
Yeah, so I had those 2 quarterbacks there as well. I knew both of you would talk about them, so I had to find a third quarterback to talk about in the favorite plays. So I went with Tua Tagovailoa at 6K. Since coming back from the injury, he's been super efficient. I think he's averaging, 75 to 80% completion percentage over those couple games. The biggest thing is the explosive plays that are missing. And I think against this Raiders defense, he can get those explosive plays. I think Tyreek Hill's going to have a decent game. I think we, obviously see a Chan's having some monster games. I think he continues to have his monster games. I think this might be a sort of a Miami Dolphins coming out party for the offense this week. And at 6K, I do like Tua. Obviously, I like home golf and Purdy more, but if you want to get different, I do like Tua, and the stacking options are pretty decent as well. Gerson, you got one more guy in that top range there too that I looked at as well and thought he was a pretty good play. Talk about Bo Nix a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, Bo Nix. I'll say this: I was not the biggest Bo Nix touter. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
thought he was good, but I didn't think he was this good. Um, the biggest thing to me with Bo Nix is his value of like price per dollar.
Mm-hmm.
He's coming out as my second highest value. And by the way, Brock Purdy is my number one value. And when I say number one value of all the positions, so yeah, that's kind of crazy. 6,600. But yeah, Bo Nix against Atlanta. We've seen Atlanta's defense. What everybody thought was going to be a great defense, with all the free agent move they made. They're not as good as as it looks. I think Bo Nix and the Denver offense will move the ball pretty well. Honestly, Payton knows a way to design plays just to make them comfortable, and that's the biggest thing with Bo Nix. He doesn't really like. He's not going to get you like a what do you call it, like an elite ceiling game, like a 400-yard passing game, but he'll get you 250, two touchdowns, and a rushing touchdown, possibly.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
He can run. The kid can run,
And he can.
and he's not afraid to sling the ball either. Sutton went off for 25 points last week. That was the biggest difference maker I've ever seen in all tournament. Like, if you had him, you climbed to the leaderboard. And so with Bo Nix, Sutton against Atlanta, you can run it back with what's his name, Drake London.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be a good offensive game. Denver's defense is pretty good, and if they force Kirk Cousins to throw a couple interceptions, Nick is going to be able to get in at the red zone, and he's very efficient for a rookie quarterback. He's pretty efficient. His price is not bad either, 6,200.
Yeah.
So yeah, give me that game along with Bo Nix.
Agreed. All right, let's move down to the salary savers here, Tim. What you got for one of your salary savers?
Let's see. I'm going to take the guy that none of y'all have, and that's Aaron Rodgers. Yeah, man. I think he disappointed a lot of people last week, and nobody's going to want to play him. And I think he has proven that he's much, much better at home this year. I am kind of hedging this on the fact that Devontae Adams plays. I saw he was questionable, but I think he plays, man. And I think that they're really starting to figure out what that offense looks like with both guys, right?
Yeah.
We saw a little bit of it last week, 2 weeks ago. And I think the best thing here is that the other guy is going to be it's the exact same price, and he's going to be 4 to 5 times the ownership. And I think that's what Rodgers really is, a hedge for me, because like if you play Rodgers stacks this week, you're getting them super, super low owned.
Yeah.
Whereas I think the other guy is probably somebody that's going to be in the 15% range, if not higher, at quarterback.
Yeah, 100% agree. So Tim got married last week, but also he went through puberty apparently as well. So Aaron
You didn't like that? I
Rodgers.
thought that was funny.
uh, Gerson,
Oh, man.
salary saver.
So I said it last week, and it worked. It worked out. I said Russell Wilson is actually pretty underrated, and Mr. Dangerous or whatever you want to call him, the guy is cleaning it. And 5.9K. I was amazed that his price only rose up like $100 more. I was like, all right. Um, One thing we know what to do against the Ravens, they are probably the biggest pass funnel defense in the league. You pass on them. One thing you don't do, run on them. They are the number one run defense, so you can eliminate the running game for them. They're going to pass the ball. Najee Harris is not going to move the ball quite a bit. It's going to be a George Pickens, Russell Wilson game. I'm really excited for this game for GPP wise because it can go either way. It can be one of those rival games where it's just low scoring, but with that pass defense of the Ravens, I can't see it being like that. So, and the other thing is, he's been very efficient, Russell Wilson. I mean, games involving the Baltimore Ravens having combined average 800 total yards on offense, and they scored 57 plus points. And then Wilson had had 25, 19, and I believe the last one was 25, 15, and 19 points in those three starts. So I'm going to have quite a bit of exposure to him. Again, the stack, I think I'm just going to do one. It's just picking. I'm not too excited about the other guys. You can do Moose and wide receiver that we'll talk about later on that team. But that's it. I mean, Wilson to me is just more price value. Like we said this week, you're gonna want to pay. You want to get value somewhere,
Yep.
and yeah.
Yeah. And speaking of value, I think the guy that Tim was talking about, Mr. Jameis Winston at 5 at New Orleans, which, Gerson's favorite thing is the revenge narrative. But Winston's a volume play, obviously.
Yes.
All volume. I think he's had over 40 attempts in both games that he's played so far this year. Going up against New Orleans, I think it's, at 5.5, he's going to be one of the highest owned, if not the highest owned quarterback, especially in cash. I think currently on Roto Grinders, he's at 13.5%, which is the highest quarterback on the slate. So yeah, Jameis Winston's an easy click there if you're doing cash games, because when we get to the running backs, you're going to find out why you're going to save some money, because there's some guys at the top that we're going to want to try to fit in.
Yeah, I think if you're playing cash, it's Winston or Purdy.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I'm just going to mention Gerson's other guy there. He's got Geno Smith. So on the other side of that game, that could be a shootout with Brock Purdy taking Geno Smith on the other side at 5.7. This is his other salary saver. Let's go ahead and get into the tight ends.
Did somebody say tight ends?
All right, Tim, why don't you kick us off here with your favorite tight end here?
Yeah, so going into today, I was trying to figure out a way to play Travis Kelce in cash because DraftKings, for whatever reason, has refused to change his salary. He's 6,300 on a stretch of I forgot what it was, 40 targets in 3 games, which is just insanity. If he was any other player, he would be 7K. In any other season, Travis Kelce would be over 7K, and he's at 6,300. To me, this is a guy that I want to play a lot of exposure this week. We know how you beat the Bills. You don't throw really on the outside, right? You run the ball and you pass short over the middle. It sounds like a perfect Kelsey Graham script, right? And he is that offense right now, right? They're going to use Hopkins, and we'll talk about, a couple other options, but I think it just feels like a Kelsey week. 10, 12 targets at 6,300. It just seems too easy to me. So yep. I'll have a lot of exposure to him. I just don't know if I'm playing him in cash. I think that's the big decision for me versus another guy we're going to talk about here in a second.
Yeah, agreed. Gerson, what you got for your favorite tight end here?
Yeah, my favorite tight end is Travis Kelce for sure. Again, to go back off what Tim says, that price is just incredible. I mean, there's a cheap tight end that you can probably slot in at tight end and then just play him at at the flex spot. So you really think about it, if you're getting a 25 point, he's gone like 25 point, 20 points and 19 points the last 3 weeks. Yeah. So but yeah, give me David Njoku. We already talked about Winston's gonna have to sling it, and that guy loves slinging it to his tight end. David Njoku. So okay, I'm not trying to talk about fantasy football, but tight ends that I was targeting to trade for was Evan Ingram and David Njoku. And those 2 guys are my favorite tight ends for this week that are in the mid-range at 5.5K, 5.2K. They're both going to get the volume. They're both going to get peppered with target. The Evan Ingram matchup, in man-to-man defense against this defense, he's going to dominate. David Njoku, your volume, 5.5K. I'm gonna have closer to them along with Kelce. I honestly want to say it's a double tight end week because it's so hard to find value, and there's one big value at tight end. So we'll see how you guys feel about him. I'm doing it more for the salary saving because there's nothing else. I mean, value is just really booty this week,
I get a little teaser. So yeah, my favorite play was last week as well, George Kittle. I said it last week on the show. He was averaging 18.5 last week. He's now averaging only 18 because he had a 14.5 point game this past weekend. But if he was a receiver, he would be the third receiver in points per game on the slate behind Justin Jefferson and I think Puka Nakua or Cooper Cup. I forget which one of the two he was right below. But so he's basically putting up receiver type numbers similar to Kelsey has over the last 3 weeks for 6,000. If he was a receiver, he'd be, in that 8,000, 7,900, for Kittle. So again, we expect Purdy to have a good game. We expect the passing offense to be good. The one thing you got to make sure that he is actually going to play. He was questionable, but everything that I'm reading thinks that he should be good to go. He's been banged up a little bit all year, and he's been playing in all these games. So again, I like Kittle a lot at home versus Seattle. Let's move down into the value tier here, Tim. What do you got for one of your values?
Yeah, this guy was almost my lock of the week, and that was Dawson Knox. With the news that Dalton Kincaid was ruled out today at 3,500, he just feels like that easy slotted in play at tight end that we've been playing all year. I looked it up. Unfortunately, he does not have great record against Kansas City, but Kansas City has been the worst defense against tight end statistically this year. It's kind of how they play defense. We talked about two tight ends. I will definitely have some Knox, Kelsey lineups because I do think that both, they're in that late game, right? They give you that PMR, right? We all love so much, but they also work out as great point per dollar plays individually. So you get a little bit of both, a little correlation there. So that's probably my favorite. I'm just right now it's Knox or Kelsey in cash for me. It's probably going to come down to Sunday, to be honest with you, but that's where I'm at.
I was surprised that Knox was 3.5. Like when I first thought Dalton Kincaid was out, I was like, "Ooh, Knox is going to be a good, $3,000 tight end." I was like, "Oh, 3.5. He's not that cheap. He's cheap enough, but
Yeah.
past has always been like the backup tight end's been like minimum salary typically. So,
Yeah.
but still a good play. I believe. I agree 100%. Gerson, what you got for your value?
Yeah, that Knox. I mean, one of the best matchup too. So like, it's just a great play. Tight end value. We're going to talk about it. Um, he's going to be one of those players that when you put him in your roster, you're going to be like, ah. But the
Still,
thing is that can open up a lot of wow, So Davis Allen, he almost
Yeah.
sounds like a guy that you would meet at an office, dude.
yeah,
Uh, Davis Allen passed Kobe Parkinson for the tight end role. It's just it's kind of sad that on the Rams team too, like they're pretty consistent with their guys of who they want to pepper the target to. Davis Allen's got 80% of the snap. He got targeted quite a bit in the last game, and this is coming off I think this is DraftKings pricing, right? Because it was the Monday Night Football game, was it?
yeah,
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
of course, it's going to stay at 2,500. That is the minimum for all positions. So, except for defense. So 2,500, and then it'll allow you to pay up for your flex. It'll allow you to pay up for your stack and whatnot. I already did a roster with him in it, and while I went, ooh, you know, I definitely didn't mind having Travis Kelce in the flex.
yeah.
So
Yep.
yeah,
Yeah, I like it. I have both those guys on my player pool as well, but another guy I wanted to throw into the mix, and I think Gerson's talked about him a few times this year, but Jonnu Smith at 3.8, athletic tight end, really is getting more and more involved in the offense. Last week, he was literally an elbow away from scoring a touchdown. He got the ball, ran down the field. I thought he scored, but when they play the
that
replay
was a
back,
hell of a move too. It
it
was
was.
like legit. Broke two tackles and boom.
Yep. I just wish he would have got that touchdown. I definitely had him in a couple lineups. But yeah, he was 1 inch away from a touchdown last week at 3.8. I do like Jonnu Smith a lot, especially because Jalen Waddle has not been the guy that we
Mhm.
coming into the season, and John Smith's kind of taken that role over the middle of the field. So I like him as an alternative to guys that we got down here on our sheet.
No, I agree. I like
Kurt,
that
you
play.
got
What I
go
was
ahead.
gonna say, one guy that I had was Tucker Kraft. He is the only Packer that I will be talking about on this show. I'll get to that why later. Um, but I think that this is schematically how the Packers are going to move the ball if they move the ball against the Bears. Right? The wide receivers are one of the best in the league against wide receivers. They're pretty good against running backs. They don't really throw to the running backs much in Green Bay anyway. It's going to be Tucker Kraft. If they win this game, I expect him to have like 6 for 86 and 2 touchdowns, right? Like that's how I see that happening. Otherwise, I could see things going really, really bad for my Packers.
Yeah. Gerson,
And
you have
nobody, I don't think anybody will be on him. I haven't looked at the ownership, but I expect that he'll be like
gonna be
sub
super.
5%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's not highly owned.
Yeah. That would be my sneaky play at tight end for sure.
Gerson, you got a guy down there that I didn't even consider this guy. So I'm curious to your thoughts on AJ Barner.
Yeah, it's another cheap guy. He's going to be mostly in my GPP stacks to run it back with the 49ers. DK Metcalf is not cheap. He is like 6.8K. And Jackson missing Jigba is also not cheap. So if I'm not stacking him with like, Pearsall and all the other guys, you're not going to be able to get McCaffrey and the stacks. So you're
Yeah.
gonna have to go cheap. And if I want to get cheap, it's AJ Barner, the tight end for the Seattle Seahawks. Noah Fant has been out for what, 2-3 weeks now? Well, the bye week doesn't count, but yeah. Barner, he's pretty athletic, and I always target athletic tight end. 3,100. He's not expensive at all, very cheap. And I expect the 49ers to go up and take the lead, and they're going to have to play from behind. He had 27 yards. He got 7 targets in his last game. So 7 targets speaks a lot for a tight end that's kind of like, 3,100. I expect a lot of passes in this game because, like I said, they're going to be playing from behind against San Francisco 49ers defense. And it's more for salary saving and then to run it back with that stack of the 49ers.
Yeah. And just going back to you, Tim, on Tucker Craft, it looks like he is 1.1% owned on Roto-Grinders right now. So
I like that.
low owned. All right, let's get to the running backs.
It's time for running backs. Running backs.
Let's kick it off with you, Gerson. Give me one of your guys here.
Well, I talked about this game. I'm gonna keep talking about it. CMC is back. This is
He's
gonna be
back.
the game where he's gonna get the whole workload. It's just funny because like last week I woke up, like I told you guys, I was sweating, and I woke up and I'm like, oh, how is CMC doing? And it just like looked like an average game, And like I watched him play, and he didn't even look like he was trying, but it was a good game. I mean, like Baker made that game great. I just think last week he was 50% owned in the tournament. So that was kind of crazy for me. And this week he should be 50% owned in tournament.
He will be,
Yeah. So he played 56 of the 62 snaps, 19 touches, 107 yards from scrimmage. So I mean, you're pretty much going to get a full workload this week for sure. If Jordan Mason got hurt in that game, I believe against Seattle, right? If I remember correctly, It was a game where he hurt his shoulder.
Yep.
But they were moving the ball pretty well against them. The Niners have the highest team total on the slate. Seahawks defense is bottom 10 in PFF run defense, EPA against the run, and fantasy allowed points to running back. If that doesn't scream CMC, run CMC, I don't know what does. His price is 8,300 too. I think that's one big thing we're not looking at. CMC, when he is at the top of his game, he's usually 9,000 or more.
Yep.
So you're getting a $700 discount. And in a game environment like this, you can stack Purdy, CMC, and what's his name, Pearsall, or what the other guy name, Juwan Jennings, and still make a pretty damn good roster.
Okay.
But yeah.
Yeah, the only thing I will mention, which Gerson just said, when he was in the same matchup week 14 last year, he was $9,200.
Yeah, so you're
right. Getting... So significant savings over prime CMC price.
Yep.
I agree. He's going to be 40 to 50% owned in tournaments, and your biggest decision this week is basically, do I want to play 100% CMC or not? Right? Like, what is that percentage for you?
Yeah.
I'll talk about the other chalk running back on the slate, and then I'll let you go, Tim, and then we'll get to Gerson's lock. But Alvin Kamara versus Cleveland, 8.2. I think these two guys, you're trying to figure out a way to, if you can get both of them into your lineup. I think, some of the guys we talk about, the quarterbacks that are kind of cheap tight ends, that's how you're going to get there. Kamara's workload is going to be huge as it has been. And if you just box score watch and you looked at Kamara's game last week, you're like, man, he really didn't have a great game. he dropped that long touchdown that
Yes.
literally just walked in. If he had caught that, he catches that pass 9 out of 10 times. His day would have been a tremendous amount much better. So I still like Kamara at 8.2 versus Cleveland, and Cleveland's run defense, has not been very good. I think since week 4 or week 5, I think they lost their middle linebacker, if I'm not mistaken. Is going to be out. So I think at 8.2, I think Kamara and CMC are the two guys you're looking for. Tim, give us one of your favorite plays here.
Can you actually let Gerson go first?
Yeah, I'll let Gerson
I'm
go.
gonna.
Let's do his lock.
Lock it in.
Go ahead, G.
Sorry, I'm still laughing about Mike Tyson being bare ass naked on Netflix. That was hilarious. After giving the guy a kiss on the cheek, that is hilarious. Yeah, Devon A. man. We just got to ride this train, man. I'm telling you, one thing the Raiders struggle against is speedy running backs that are fast. And I don't know if there's a faster running back in the NFL than Devon A. I can't think of one. I might be wrong though. I'm pretty sure there's probably one. But with Tua Tagovailoa under center this season, he has produced as a top 10 back every week, week in and week out. He's basically an equivalent of wide receiver 10, just on the receiving end. So he's like a wide receiver, but running back as well. He's gonna get the the usage, and I like the Tua Tagovailoa call because the Raiders defense is not as good as people think. It sucks.
Mhm.
So I mean, sometimes they do decent, but then they blow the lead. So
Yep.
I'm gonna have a lot of Asian this week. And what I was shocked is the price, 7,200.
Mhm.
That is so cheap. I mean, the guy every single time he's under Tua, he's gotten 23 fantasy points or more. So he's the feature back. The projected score 26 points, and the Raiders have allowed the 7th most fantasy points against running back.
Yep.
So all those add up to me as my lock of the week. I don't want to overthink this one. This feels a lot like when what's his name? Oh boy, B. John Robinson was very cheap.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You know, this is what it feels like.
I haven't tried building rosters yet. Can you fit CMC, Kamara, and Achane in a lineup?
Yes, you can, and I think it's going to be pretty popular.
Yeah.
Okay, check this out.
Especially.
Check this out. What if I were to tell you can fit all of them and a 49er stack?
Wow. That would be it's pretty sweet. Good
It
stuff.
can be done.
Tim, what you got for your favorite running backs?
Yeah, so it's actually, I'm glad you said that, Jeff, because that's exactly what I wanted to talk about. I do think that either CMC, Kamara, CMC, HN are going to be the highest owned pair of running backs. And I said it 2 weeks ago on this show, and I'm going to repeat it now. One of the best ways to get an edge this year has been pivoting off a jockey running back for another one at the same price. That being said, I love HN. I think he's going to absolutely smash this week. But I also love Jahmyr Gibbs, and I think he will be much lower owned. I do see he's like probably 6th or 7th in terms of ownership. I don't know if that'll hold till Sunday, but I think people don't want to play individual players on Detroit because they feel like it'll always be the other guy.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like this sets up as a perfect Jahmyr Gibbs script, right? The Jaguars are actually better against kind of the Montgomery style backs. They're worse against the outside and the pass catching backs. So I could see one of those vintage 30, 35 point Gibbs games here. And if Kamara fails or Achane fails or God forbid CMC fails, like if you have Gibbs, you're going to be the one that's flying up the roster. So he will probably be my highest owned running back outside of the big three this week. And I will probably be 2 to 3x the field. And that's where I'm going to make one of my stands this week.
I like that call. I was actually doing some data stuff. I love just messing around with data and just sorting by different columns. And I was looking at FTN and I sorted by percentage of runs over 10 yards for all players in the NFL. And the top 17 were quarterbacks for obvious reasons. They
Sure.
don't much. They get the 10-yard runs. It
Yep.
ends up equaling out. There was one running back in the top 18. I think he was like 14 or 15. It was Jahmyr Gibbs. And you figure all the rushes that he gets, the percentage that he has to be in that same quarterback range of percentages over 10 yards, he's an explosive play waiting to happen. So I like that call a lot.
Yeah, one of the stats, and I was trying to pull it up real quick while we were on here, is that the Detroit Lions currently hold the record for highest average point differential by, I think it's 11 and a half points, right? So, like, when they win, they usually win big, and that sets up perfectly for the running backs.
Yeah, when they play terrible like they did this past weekend, they still win. So
They
yeah,
still get there. Yep.
yeah, absolutely. I did want to mention one more guy that I had, James Cook versus Kansas City at 6.8. We've talked about it a little bit, but no Dalton Kincaid, Keon Coleman is out. So they're going to have Dawson Knox in there. Curtis Samuel might get some run. We don't know about Amari Cooper yet, if he's going to play or not. He might be out. You start taking away some of these pass catchers, and it's like, where are these passes going to go to? And James Cook is a pass catching running back. So I think some of those can be picked up by James Cook. I think his value is in the running game at 6.8. He won't be as popular because guys like Achan are really close to him. So I think James Cook is a sneaky little tournament play that you can put in there and hope that he catches, 7 or 8 passes out of the backfield with them having no pass catchers right now in that offense. Let's see. I want to mention we got Kareem Hunt at 6.7 and Bijan Robinson at 7.8. That's pretty much that's Gerson's copy paste this season. I think is Bijan. I just put Bijan on the sheet every single week.
Disrespectful. So they still haven't priced him over 8,000. That's disrespectful.
That's true.
Yeah, it is absolutely disrespectful. We all have the same
The
value.
one.
We only have one. So does anybody in particular want to talk about this play? Tim shaking his head. So Gerson,
No.
you get to talk about Audric Estime.
I want to talk about how you don't want to play him.
Yes.
I understand he's 4,500,
Mm-hmm.
but you're eliminating a running back spot.
Yep.
That's the biggest issue.
Yes.
The other thing is he has no pass catching upside.
Zero.
On DraftKings, you want pass catching upside. If you don't have that, I don't really want you on my roster. At running back, I mean, there's only a very few guys like Derrick Henry. He's the only one that I would probably play that doesn't catch the ball. On Audric, is it Audric or Audric, right?
Audric, yes.
Yeah. Even in college, he was just what do you call him? A plouter?
Bruiser, yeah, sure.
A bruiser. And that's what he got 17 carries for like what, 20 or 30 yards or something like that, 40 yards? I can't remember. Yeah, so that's what, in draft team points, that's basically only 6 points.
Yeah.
I don't even know. So like, yeah, and you want GPP. I mean, you give up that running back spot, I am telling you, if he doesn't get you 15 points, you're gonna get blown out in dust at your running back position.
So that's pretty hilarious because that's exactly what I was thinking when I put
yes.
there. Is I was going to talk about not playing him, and we all had the same guy, and we're all talking about not playing him. So
correct. He is 100% going to go for 100 yards and 2 touchdowns because we all thought the exact same thing.
Yeah. All right, let's go ahead and get into the wide receivers.
And now, wide receivers.
Let's see, Tim. Let's go to you.
All right. So there's one way I think CMC doesn't get there this week, and that's because we see a vintage Debo performance. Debo has historically owned the 49ers because of the style of defense that they play. He was kind of banged up last week, so they leaned on Juwan Jennings, knowing they didn't need him. This week feels like a Debo week to me. At 6,800, I do see he will have a little ownership, but I think most of those will be in Purdy stacks. I think if you run him outside of your Purdy stacks, you're going to get him a really different lineups. But I just feel like this could be a vintage Debo week. Like he had this one circled on his calendar, right? We're looking at 8 catches, 100+ yards, definitely 100+ scrimmage yards, and then if he gets the touchdowns and CMC doesn't, then you're already beating half the field.
Yeah. Debo's going to be, I think, pretty popular at 6.8, but I still agree with that because I don't know if people are putting CMC and Debo. So if you're putting Debo in there as like a pivot off of CMC, I like that at 6.8.
Yeah, I think most people will go Purdy, CMC, Jennings. And if you can go Purdy, CMC, Debo and find a way to make it work, I think you get a little different.
Yeah, agreed. I like that a lot. And he was actually still used in the running game, even with CMC back last week. He had a few carries. So always the potential that he can break one of those as well. Gerson, what you got for one of your favorite plays here?
Take a nap. That's my favorite play right now. No, yeah, I like the Debo call. I've always when they play the Seattle Seahawks, it's a Debo game. We know this.
Yeah.
It his price here is kind of a little bit expensive. Um, the biggest thing with Debo, he has to get the usage. If he gets the
Yeah.
usage, he performs, and that's what I hate. That's why I hate playing him sometimes because I don't know how many touches he's gonna get. Um, so wide receiver this week for me, Jeff Lock of the week was actually my favorite play, so I had to pivot. Um, Amon-Ra St. Brown. I know he
Yeah.
hasn't been the best wide receiver this season. Obviously, he probably been the most disappointing wide receiver of all the studs besides, well, now you can't say CD Lamb, you know. But I think with Cam Laporta being ruled out, he's gonna get peppered with target. I mean, he was already getting peppered with target, but now no Laporta. I mean, trust me, Brock Wright is not gonna step in and get 8 targets. Didn't happen last year when Laporta was out. Not gonna happen this year. So one of the things I keep thinking home golf, right? But
Hmm.
you really go look at the game log. There's basically home Amon-Ra St. Brown too. This
Yeah.
guy loves playing at home for some reason. And, well, who doesn't, right? But
Yeah.
8K though, it is a little pricey. He's probably going to be the only wide receiver I want to pay up for. Hopefully, he doesn't shit the bed like Justin Jefferson. Against the Jaguars, the worst pass defense in the league. One of the worst pass defense in the league. I have him projected for 21 points right now. So, to me, I'm hoping he obviously gets like 26 because you need a 3 times value on GPP. But one of the things that I was like, all right, his ownership was only 8%.
Hmm.
That is
Yeah.
lowly owned.
Yep.
So if I want to be contrarian and maybe go like switch CMC's a price to like him, and just be contrarian, and well, I'm definitely not gonna play Audric Estime. I promise you that the running back position. But I'll play another running back somewhere. But yeah, give me ASB against the Jaguars. Hopefully he doesn't do what Justin Jefferson did to my heart last week.
Yeah, and Gerson's saying he's been disappointing, and he has is from a consistency standpoint, but he scored a touchdown in every
Yeah,
game. Three, I think he's on a streak of like 7 straight games of a touchdown. So he has that floor almost built in. Like he's going to get a touchdown. You feel like every single game. So if he can just get the catches in the yardage there that he was not getting, that will definitely push him over the
yeah.
top. I like the Sun God as well. All right,
Yep.
my lock of the week.
Lock it in.
All right, this is my lock of the week, and this was also a guy that I called out before the season started as one of my guys for the fantasy season. So it's the fact that he's finally breaking out is really kind of doing well for me. But Mr. George Pickens at 7K versus Baltimore. Baltimore's pass defense is absolutely atrocious on a historical sort of pace to break records because they've been so terrible. And George Pickens over the last few games with Russell Wilson and at the helm has been nothing short of amazing. He's got a couple of called back touchdowns that can make his stat lines look even better if he was to pull those down and not have them called back either from penalty. And of course, he had the infamous 2 feet down, but it was the same foot twice
Hmm.
that went down. But George Pickens has been absolutely amazing. It's a perfect match with Russell Wilson and his deep ball. Russell Wilson's not afraid to put it up there. That 50-50 ball is where George Pickens lives. He's a contested catch king. He's made some of the most amazing catches look sort of average. So yeah, 7K is way too cheap for George Pickens in this matchup with this terrible secondary of the Baltimore Ravens. So I love Pickens this week. So he's one of my favorite plays this week.
So I will admit, Jeff, when I first opened the slate and I saw George Pickens was 7K, my first impulse was, damn, 7K. But the more I looked at it, like the volume's there. They had the price in there at this point.
Mm-hmm.
So especially in this matchup, Baltimore giving up the most points outside receivers. If he doesn't smash now, then win.
Yeah,
Right? Like they almost have to put 3 corners on George Pickens and say, we're going to let somebody else beat us because I don't see how they get there otherwise.
agreed.
All right, Gerson stepped away. Do you mind if I go?
Yep, go ahead.
Oh, he's back.
No, go ahead. Go ahead, Tim.
Okay. Yeah, I'm going to pick a guy that Gerson actually talked about earlier in the show. This is a guy that I was on a couple weeks ago, and I think Gerson kind of was like, man, I'm never going to play that guy. And then here we are a couple weeks later. We're going to recommend the same guy. And that's Cortland Sutton. I think he goes as Bo Nix goes. We talked about Bo Nix as one of the better value plays on the slate. And if he gets it done against Atlanta, it's probably because Cortland Sutton gets it done, right? And I think that really any favorable game script for them is going to involve Cortland Sutton. He gets the volume, and he is somebody who probably, in my opinion, should be priced up in the 6K range, and he's still at 5,900. So I don't know if he technically qualified as a value. That's why I put him on this tier. But he's somebody that's going to be one of my core plays this week. Atlanta started off pretty good against wide receivers, particularly outside. Now they're bottom 5 against outside receivers. So, yeah, man, I'm going to go right back to Sutton. He's probably going to burn me, but I just feel like it's too good a price and too good a matchup for me to ignore.
Yeah, agreed. We got a ton of star savers to get to, so I'm just going to mention the rest of the guys on the sheet here. We got Puka Nakua, who seems to have taken over the lead role there in the Rams offense. DK Metcalf, so just a quick note that I had on him. DK Metcalf already owns the 49ers to begin with, but various Ward's also going to be out this week, so that definitely hurts. I think I looked up the guy that's going to be replacing him. His name is Isaac Yadam. I don't even know who he is. He plays on my team, and I have no idea. He's probably the one on DK Metcalf, so wheels up for DK Metcalf for sure. And then I have Khalil Shakir, who's basically the last man standing in that passing offense of the Bills. He's going to be working the middle of the field, so obviously he's going to be in play. And then Calvin Ridley, who after that game where he just has been really good over the last couple of weeks at 6.2. So Calvin Ridley is also another good play.
Jeff, I forgot to ask you, who is the FTN matchup of the week?
So the matchup of the week, the fact that you asked me that, I already had it pulled up here. Let me just sort it so that it shows the right ones. Of course, it doesn't want to sort.
It's George Pickens, I bet.
Yeah, I was going to say, I just assumed it was Pickens. That's why you picked
So it is George Pickens on the slate. So, yeah, so I didn't even know that, honestly. I looked at it earlier, and Nico Collins technically is the top, but he's not on the slate. So George Pickens is number 2 on there. So, yeah, George Pickens has got a great matchup for sure.
I like it.
All right, let's move down into the salary savers. Gersten, why don't you kick us off here?
You know what I find crazy? Just think about it for a second. George Pickens is 7K, right? Travis Kelce is 6,300.
Like it's the tight end like thought process.
So
right there with you, G.
Yeah. So cheap wide receivers. I'm gonna go to Jawan Jennings. Jawan Jennings been balling, man. This guy, I watched him play last week, and he is a very good route runner. Kind of crazy how good of a route runner he is, and he just knows how to separate and get open.
And he has
I don't expect
best hands on the everyone. All the receivers say he has the best hands on the team. He doesn't drop.
Yeah, I mean, he's proven it. It's 5.3K. It's so cheap too for a guy that got like 10 targets last week. I think it was. I could be 11 targets. I mean, and he made the best of them. So, 7 for 11, 93 yards. While it's not like the best yard per reception, but I don't care. I care about one thing. You give me that 100-yard bonus, you get me receptions on DraftKings. That's all I care about. And he almost got the 100-yard bonus. He was 93 yards. I mean, he was 7 yards away. So, yeah, 5,300. Jeff just mentioned that they're hurting on the secondary. I mean, the 49ers are hurting on the secondary. Well, I'm telling you right now, that Seattle secondary is not very good.
No.
And Brock Purdy is going to eat them alive. I'm excited for the price range. And again, this is the way I'm going to get cheap with the 49ers stack. They did not price up Pearsall or Jennings, and I thought that was a mistake, especially in this kind of game environment. So I don't know if I'm probably going to be more higher owned on Pearsall and Jennings over Debo, to be honest. But that might come back to bite me in the ass. But it's only because it's hard to pay up for 6,800 sometimes, you know?
Yes.
Agreed.
So here's the one thing I was going to say when I mentioned Debo. Is the one thing that scares me is that Seattle over the last 4 weeks has been the worst in the league against the slot. Number 1 most points given up to the slot over the last 4 weeks. Jennings obviously runs most of his routes out of the slot. So,
yeah, man, I was going to point out with Jennings as well. Whenever we go one receiver, when we go with the heavy set, like on a running play with a Christian McCaffrey, it's always Jennings that's going to be in there because he's the best blocker on the team. So you get one of those play action passes down in the red zone. Is Jennings on the field? He's the one they're looking for. So you can get one of those, red zone touchdowns, red zone looks for Jennings as well because he's on the field. I'll go next here, and I'm gonna take take the guy that Gerson alluded to earlier that is somehow going to be chalky. But Kayshon Boutte versus the LA Rams at 3.5. I had a stat pulled up, but he ran a route on all of the Patriots dropbacks last week. I think he's got a 25% target share over the last 3 weeks. It's not a good offense, and they've got their struggles. But when you get a guy getting that much volume at 3.5, I do like Kayshon Boutte as a way to save some salary. I don't love it. If I can figure out a way to not play him, I will. But yeah, Kayshon Boutte would be one of those guys that if you need the savings, you can go down to get him, go up and get your guy. Gerson, looks like we lost Tim there. You want to go here and give you one of your salary savers again?
They just made me laugh that we actually are talking about Kayshon Boutte because as Debbie players or as fantasy players, we knew how trash he was.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden, Drake May apparently has a fetish for him. I mean, it's crazy to me. Like 3,800 though. I mean, if he gets you a 0 or a 3 or 5, it sucks, but it's not going to kill your roster. Cedric Tillman. And we mentioned Jameis early on. We mentioned Njoku. You got to mention Cedric Tillman. He's been his favorite target. To be honest, another fantasy darling, right? The guy didn't do crap jack squat last year, and this year, all of a sudden, when he got the opportunity, he is a top point per game, at least top 10 wide receiver. Back to back. Let's see, 18-point game, 28-point game, 19-point game, and his price hasn't changed very much. That's the thing. I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna keep playing him. 5,300. Then in that New Orleans defense is not going to be as good as anymore on secondary. Their best secondary player is no longer there, Marshawn Lattimore. And honestly, he was one of the heart and soul players on that defense. And I think Winston's going to sling it with the revenge narrative, I guess. But yeah, give me Tillman. There's so many good value plays, but maybe it's just this slate is very interesting. You can build your roster many ways, but Tillman definitely going to be one of my highest owned players in GPP rosters.
Agreed. Tim, I don't know how long you were out for, but I talked about Kayshon Boutte, and then Gerson talked about Tillman. So pick one of your salary savers there.
Yeah, I think it's died during the Boutte. The booty was too fire, I guess. It overheated my PC.
Booty was fire. That needs
that's
to be a drop.
Yeah. I'm going to go with Jacoby Myers. I was hoping one of you guys wouldn't take him. He's been one of my favorite plays over the last few weeks. Since Devontae Adams was traded, we thought all the volume was going to go to Brock Bowers, but a lot of that has really gone to Jacoby Myers. He's still in that mid 5K range. I think a lot of the other guys we talked about, I love Tillman. I love Jennings. I'm probably going to be playing the booty this week, but the other guy I'm looking at is Jacoby Myers. I mentioned earlier that I really wanted to play Travis Kelce. I had a lineup I had with Myers, Tillman, Sutton, and I was able to fit in Travis Kelce. And I was like, that actually sounds pretty damn good. I think those are a lot of the wide receivers I'm going to be the most exposed to this week. The volume and price. I just feel like this is where most people are going to be living, right? You're going to be playing at least 2, if not 3 wide receivers in this 5 to 6K range.
Agreed. I'll just mention the last couple guys we got there. You got Jameson Williams at 5.8. I think it's a great play, especially if Laporte is out, which I believe he's already been listed as out. So, yeah, Jameson Williams is a good play. Yeah. I got DeAndre Hopkins, who kind of busted for me last week at Buffalo at 5.7, but I still think with Mahomes as your quarterback, 5.7 is a pretty good price to pay for him. So I do like him as well. All right, let's get to the defenses.
Defense.
All right, Tim, I'm going to go ahead and just double drop you so we can get to that.
Lock it in.
So I mentioned earlier that I didn't really want to play any Packers this week. And that's because if you look at EPA per dropback, the Bears are the best team in the league. in terms of EPA per dropback. They are giving up negative 0.16 EPA per dropback. That is better than the Broncos, better than the Vikings, better than anyone else. You cannot pass the ball on this team. And what is Jordan Love? He's a gunslinger, right? Is he going to score a couple of touchdowns? Yes, he is. Is he probably also going to throw a couple of picks? I think so. Right now, all of the optimizers are telling you to play the Titans. And that's the reason I made this my lock of the week, because I think the extra $100 to pay up for the Bears over the Titans is the way to go this week. I think they have a higher floor. I also think they have a higher ceiling. I hate to say it. I would not be shocked if the Bears won this game straight up. I would be shocked if the Titans won straight up. So when I'm looking at defenses, I want pressure, I want turnovers, and I want a chance to win the game. And I think the Bears have all three.
Nice. And they're, that cheap price is, it's hard to ignore.
Yeah, right. We're looking for Kamara. We're looking for CMC, right? Like I said, how are you going to fit him in? You're probably playing the Titans. But if you have that extra 100, trust me, pay up for the Bears.
Nice. I like it. Gerson, what do you got for your defense?
Yeah, I have the Minnesota Vikings. They're expensive, the 3.7K,
Yep.
but it's just it's more of a GPP play. Obviously, you're not going to want to play him in cash game. But the biggest thing is we know who the quarterback is. Will Levis is going to play. He's the most turnover-prone quarterback in the league, probably. But this defense, they blitz at the highest rate. Levis is going to have a nightmare against them. If I were to put a money on a defensive touchdown, I'd probably say Minnesota Vikings will be number one this week.
Agreed.
That's for me, though. So 3,700 on DraftKings. You are going to pay up a little bit, but it's kind of it's defense, It's not that expensive. So, but yeah, give me them. I love the Titan calls though. I'm going to have a lot of Titan. It's more for the reason that Darnold has looked like a pumpkin lately.
Yeah.
He hasn't looked like the Darnold we saw. And I mean, we just saw like him struggle against the Jacksonville Jaguars pass defense. I mean, so
Shocking.
maybe he's not as good as we think he is, And the Vikings hot start is no longer hot start no more. But I mean, they're winning, but it is what it is. But Titans defense at 2,300. I mean, that's so cheap, and it's going to be the highest on defense because on this slate, you're going to have to find value, and it's going to be them, or you could pivot and go with the Bears. I like that.
Yeah.
Yep. I love the Vikings call. They're my favorite pay up defense by far. I think that they're projected for almost 12 points in my projections, which makes them one of the highest point per dollar defenses too. How you get there, I don't know. But if you were to go say, instead of CMC Kamara, you went CMC Achane and paid up at defense, I think that's a great way to get different this week.
Yeah, I like it. I just had one different defense than y'all right there in the middle. The Dolphins going against the Raiders. Gardner Minshew, not the greatest quarterback in the world. The Dolphins actually looked really good last week too against the Rams. Actually got 4 sacks, caused 2 turnovers. So their defense is starting to look a little bit better now that the offense is able to be on the field longer. They're able to stay rested. I think the Dolphins at 3K are a decent option as well. And then I'll just mention that, Tim, you also had the Jets there at 2.8. Did you want to tell you anything about the Jets?
No, like I said, I just think it's a bounce back. But I think that I'm probably playing Bears or Vikings, but mostly Bears. I may have a little Titans, but mostly Bears.
All right, good stuff. Let's get to our stacks.
Goingfor2.com's weekly stack report.
All right, Gerson, I'm going to go to you because the stack that you had, I almost put on my sheet as well, but then I saw that you had Achane as your lock, so I didn't steal your stack. So go ahead and talk about your stack there.
Well, my stack was going to be your stack, so you stole my exact stack. So I was like, all right, for you then, Jeff. No, it's going to be Achane and the Miami defense. I believe that this game is going to get out of hand pretty early. I just can't see Minshew moving the ball very well. This Dolphins defense is very interesting. Like, they're very inconsistent, but when they play bad opponents, they do very good. So, that's the biggest thing. The Rams offense struggled against them. If you watch that game, they didn't move the ball as well as they usually do. And I think in this game, they're going to pick Minshew off at least 2 times, honestly. And if they get to the red zone, they're going to give it to Achan, whether it's through the passing game or the run game. I know Mostert's still there, still getting volume, but Achan, he gets with the fantasy points per minute or per touch. I'm pretty sure it's high. So give me Achan and then the discounted price of Achan, and then give me the defense at 3,000. It's not that expensive. It's 3,000, so you can make it work. Again, that's a contrarian defense though, so it's a stack. It's just a contrarian stack.
Yeah, I like it. Tim, you got kind of a contrarian stack here as well. Talk about your stack.
Yeah, I mentioned at the top of the show with Dawson Knox becoming available today as a good cheap value. I'm probably going to have some Josh Allen stacks. So I'm going to go Josh Allen, Dawson Knox, and then bring it back with either Kareem Hunt or Travis Kelce.
Yeah, I like it. My stack is probably one of the more chalkier stacks. I don't know if you can afford my comeback on this one, but with Purdy, CMC, Jawan Jennings, and then Metcalf. But as Gerson mentioned earlier in the show, you could get different and go with like AJ Barner as the comeback tight end if you want to get cheaper there. I'm not sure how much cheaper JSN is, but you can always go JSN.
He's not cheap.
He's really not. Yeah.
He's actually more expensive. He's 6,800.
Wow.
Yeah.
Even look at JSN, but I was looking at Metcalf, like he's pretty expensive with the guys we want to fit in there, but for tournaments you can do that kind of stuff. So Purdy, CMC, Jennings, and you can also go Pearsall here as well. All kinds of ways you can stack this game. This is one of those games that you can stack and just do a bunch of different combinations and throw them to a tournament.
Agreed.
All right, now for my least favorite of the year. Let's go ahead and get to that.
Now, the sick call of the week.
Oh shit!
Let me go first, Jeff, because I want to talk about how last week I'm on vacation. Okay, I'm playing no lineups. I got one $3 lineup I had as a placeholder, and I log in on Sunday morning in the chat and I go, "Hey guys, the cheat code this week is Mac Hollins," and that was all I sent. Right? He only ended up scoring 12 DraftKings points, but he let you pay for whoever you wanted last week. 3 weeks in a row: Raymond, Gesicki, Mac Hollins. And this week I'm going through and I'm not seeing any good sit calls because Keishawn Butte is chalk. And I'm like, this is the week we have. And I look over at Jeff's column and I say, wait a minute. Jeff picked this guy. A couple weeks later, goes off. Jeff picked this guy. A couple weeks later, he goes off. So I'm going to take Jeff's sit call from last week. Flop lag, Calvin Austin, 3,600. This is the matchup, right? Everyone wants to talk about, oh, Mike Williams. They're going to get Mike Williams involved. No. Okay. It's going to go right back to George Pickens or Calvin Austin. I think he gets the long touchdown here, 2 catches for like 70 yards, but he gets the touchdown and gets you there in your Russell Wilson stacks.
Nice. I like it. I always say at the beginning of the season, we talk about the sit call segment and how we hit on about 20%. Tim right now is hitting on 50% of his sit calls. He is absolutely crushing it right now.
Including a couple of all-timers, man.
Absolutely. 3 in
Loving
a row,
it.
too. He got the 3 in a row going with Khalif Raymond, Gesicki, and Mac Hollins last week.
For sure, Calvin Austin's going to have a 0 this week, but
yeah,
I'm feeling pretty good right now.
And Gerson actually hitting the 30% mark, with me pulling the career there at 0%. But Gerson, what you got for your sit call here?
Yeah, you're hitting the sit call at 100% non-successful. That's for sure. So it kind of the last second, I kind of forgot I had to do a sick call, but I did have a guy, but I didn't know if I wanted to do it.
Sick, right? That's why.
Yeah, I mean, I had a guy. I don't know how you guys feel about it. He is a quarterback, but I think Anthony Richardson can get not 3 times value, but I think he can get 5 times value.
Oof.
And I'm going more of the sick call, like.
Yeah.
Against the New York Jets. The New York Jets defense, since Robert Saleh got fired, has been horrendous. It has not been that great. I bet you Robert Saleh every Sunday pulls up the red zone and then pulls up because he's a grown man. Of course, he's going to pull up the red zone. And then he pulls up the Jets game and just laughs the whole time. So give me Anthony Richardson for 5 times value. I know he's not like the cheap what you're looking for, but it's just to be contrarian. I'm pretty sure this is the most expensive sick call we ever had, but for quarterback in terms of quarterback, it's probably one of the cheapest sick calls you'll get.
Yeah,
Sure.
Yeah, we don't do sick call quarterbacks very often, so
No.
yeah,
No,
I like that.
that's a good one.
All right, my sick call that will not hit, but I am forced. I'm contractually obligated to give my sick call. I'm going with
We don't put a gun to your head, Jeff. You relax there, okay?
Nick Westbrook Akini at 3.6 versus Minnesota. I almost had him as a sick call last week, and thank God I did not because he only had 3 for 30. But before that, he had 4 straight games with a touchdown. Obviously since D Hop has left, he's been getting more and more usage. So I think this week's a little bit better matchup. Last week against the Chargers is a tough matchup. So going up against the Vikings here, it's still a tough matchup, not a great matchup, but he is really all they have in this offense. So I'll take a shot in the dark. I mean, why not, right? I'm just I'm shooting over right now. So just I'll take anybody at this point. Nick Westbrook and Keeney, please, please, please break my streak of missing all these sick calls so I can bring this segment back next year because Gerson's gonna convince me to not to get rid of it next year. All right,
No,
fellas.
I don't think so. Because this year, if you had Slayton, if you had Roma Dunze, you had Mike Gesicki, you won money. So
Yeah,
we're,
absolutely,
we're running it back.
absolutely. All right, fellas, that wraps the podcast up. This is the first time we're going to be closing out the show with Tim being a married man. So
Yes, sir.
thanks everybody in the chat as well for jumping into the show. I know late shows are tough for everybody, but I appreciate y'all. And if you're catching this on the replay, hit that like button as well. Let's go around the room real quick, fellas. Give us your Twitter handle and where we can find you at. We'll go to you first, Tim.
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Keto DFS or on the DFS Roundtable group on Facebook.
Good stuff. Gerson.
Yeah, you can find me at Fantasy GDFS, and then on the Facebook group, and Friday, every Friday here, obviously. But I'm excited for this week, fellas. Hopefully, one of us take down the tournament. I feel like we're due, man. We're due.
Hard to do. I agree. All right, as always, guys, you can follow me on Twitter at Jeff Lambert77, and you can now find me on the new platform Blue Sky, which has been very popular. At the same thing at Jeff Lambert77, you can find me over there. I'll be posting my ownership and fantasy point projections tomorrow morning on the Going for Two Facebook page, so make sure you check that out as well. It's a pretty popular thing that we do. For Tim, for Gerson, I am Jeff. Good luck this weekend, and we will see y'all next week.
Go, Pack, go!